You know that feeling when you're sitting alone in an empty room? Maybe the house is just perfectly quiet and suddenly you feel this, I don't know, this inexplicable chill.
Oh, yeah, like somebody's watching you.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
that sudden primal instinct that just forces you to look over your shoulder, even when, like, every logical part of your brain knows absolutely nothing is there. I mean, we've all been there, right?
We definitely have.
Huh.
And it's actually an incredibly common human experience. It's rooted really deeply in our evolutionary biology.
Wait, so it's a biological thing?
Oh, absolutely. When you feel that sudden spike of cortisol and, that hyper-awareness of your surroundings, you are basically experiencing an ancient survival mechanism.
Yeah.
We are biologically wired to constantly scan for threats.
Right, because our ancestors had to be on the lookout for predators.
Exactly. So sometimes the sheer absence of stimuli in a quiet room causes the brain's threat detection system to just, misfire. It assumes danger simply because it can't see any.
Okay, let's unpack this, because today we are doing a deep dive into a text that essentially weaponizes that exact biological glitch.
It really does. It's quite brilliant.
Yeah, we have a single very short narrative excerpt today. It's basically a piece of microfiction. I mean, it only takes up a single paragraph, but it functions as an absolute masterclass in extreme psychological horror.
A masterclass is a perfect way to describe it.
Right. So the goal today is to deconstruct exactly how just a handful of sentences can completely bypass your logical brain. We're looking at how it triggers a visceral, suffocating fight or flight response, basically putting you directly in the driver's seat of a nightmare.
And, the author manages to construct this psychological trap using such an incredible economy of language.
Yeah, there's no wasted space.
None at all. Rather than relying on, chapters of slow world building, the text immediately manipulates the environment to lower the reader's defensive thresholds right from the jump.
Let me just read the opening line so we can get a feel for it. It goes, "You are driving alone on a deserted, unlit highway. It is 3:00 a.m. The only light comes from your headlights cutting through the pitch black night. The radio is playing low static."
It's so immediately isolating.
It really is. It instantly makes me think of, being in a speeding submarine or maybe a space capsule,
And that's a really good way to look at it.
Yeah, because you are completely cut off from the outside world. You're enclosed in this tight mechanical space where your only connection to reality is just a narrow beam of light slicing through an absolute void.
The submarine analogy highlights the pressure of the environment perfectly, actually.
Yeah.
You're in this pressurized cabin of perceived safety, but you're moving through a hostile, unnavigable space.
Which is pitch black.
Right. The author is doing something very deliberate here. By stripping away all other sights and sounds, they are plunging the reader straight into a state of sensory deprivation.
Which naturally forces the brain into a state of autopilot, doesn't it? I mean, you have the hum of the engine, the white noise of the static.
The low static is such a great detail.
Yeah, and the endless rhythm of the road, it's highway hypnosis. Your brain is practically begging to go to sleep.
And when the human brain is deprived of varied sensory input like that, it actually becomes hungry for it. It starts seeking out patterns where there are none. This is a phenomenon known as the Ganzfeld effect.
The Ganzfeld effect.
Yeah. In environments of extreme sensory deprivation, the brain will sometimes even manufacture its own audio or visual hallucinations just to keep itself active.
Oh, wow. So your brain is basically playing tricks on you because it's bored.
Basically, yes. So by lulling you into this hypnotic drone, the text ensures that any sudden intrusion will be magnified 100-fold. But what's fascinating here is that the author introduces the horror physically before it is ever actually seen.
Oh, right. The text notes that you feel a sudden freezing chill on the back of your neck.
Exactly. It doesn't start with a visual.
Right. It doesn't start with a loud noise or a jump scare or a monster suddenly appearing in the headlights. The threat breaches the perimeter of the submarine silently.
Silently and intimately.
Yeah, it registers as a temperature drop on the single most vulnerable part of your body.
The back of the neck is a massive primal trigger point. In the natural world, it is exactly where a predator would strike to sever the spinal cord.
That's terrifying just thinking about it.
It is. That chill is your autonomic nervous system responding to a subconscious threat assessment. Before your conscious mind can even process what is happening, your body recognizes that the isolation of the environment has been shattered.
The threat is already inside the capsule with you.
Precisely. You aren't alone anymore.
But the terror really takes shape through how the author frames the visual reveal. Let me read the next part. Instinctively, you glance up at the rearview mirror. Your heart stops. Sitting perfectly still in the middle of your back seat is a tall, unnaturally pale figure in rotting clothes. Its head is tilted at a broken angle, and its eyes are locked onto yours through the mirror.
The visual description there is just devastatingly precise in how it triggers our deepest biological aversions.
I always wonder about the choice of the rear view mirror, though. Like, why the mirror?
What do you mean?
Well, why not just have the figure reach out and grab the driver from behind? Or, I don't know, suddenly appear in the passenger seat right next to you?
Ah, I see.
To me, the mirror acts almost like a movie screen mounted inside the car. It severely restricts your view. You only get this small rectangular slice of the horror behind you.
That's a really sharp observation.
And because you are driving a car at high speed, you're forced to remain passive. Like, you have to keep your eyes on the road, so you're just stealing these terrified, fleeting glances at the screen above your dashboard.
The mirror forces a terrifying duality, really.
Mm-hmm.
Mirrors inherently create a sense of detachment. You're looking at a reflection, not the thing itself.
Right.
But they also represent a rigid boundary. You are strapped into a moving vehicle, constrained by a seatbelt, and the physical act of driving.
You literally can't just turn around.
Exactly. You cannot simply turn your whole body around to confront the intrusion. The mirror forces you to experience the threat within a tightly confined frame, which massively amplifies the feeling of helplessness.
And the image inside that frame is just horrific. I mean, the unnaturally pale skin and rotting clothes immediately implied decay.
It's a very specific kind of threat.
Yeah, it's something that has been dead for a very long time, and now it's bringing disease and contamination right into this tight enclosed space with you.
And that decay, combined with the broken angle of the head, taps directly into the uncanny valley.
Oh, right, because it looks almost human, but not quite.
Yes. Our brains have specialized neural pathways dedicated entirely to facial recognition and assessing human forms. When we see a shape that is almost human but fundamentally broken, like a neck snapped at an impossible geometric angle, the brain fires conflicting signals.
It's like a system error.
Basically, yes. It recognizes a human, but it also recognizes disease, violent trauma, and a lethal deviation from symmetry. The result is a profound instinctual revulsion.
But here's where it gets really interesting to me. The text specifically points out that its eyes are locked onto yours through the mirror.
Yes, the eye contact.
That single detail takes it from just a scary image to something deeply, deeply unsettling.
The eye contact establishes intent.
It creates this inescapable, horrifying intimacy. The threat isn't just a passive object sitting in your car, like, a piece of luggage.
Right, it's not just scenery.
It isn't just looking out the window or staring blankly ahead. It is actively observing you. It knows you are looking at it, and it is holding your gaze through this tiny piece of glass.
It's acknowledging you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You are sharing a profoundly intimate, silent moment with a rotting corpse at 3 a.m. while hurtling down an empty highway. It just freaks me out.
Well, locking eyes through a reflection violates the normal rules of spatial distance.
How so?
The figure's physically in the back seat, but the eye contact through the mirror collapses that distance psychologically. In nature, direct, unbroken eye contact from an unknown entity is a universal sign of predatory stalking.
Oh, wow. So it's hunting you.
Yes. The threat goes from being a localized object in the back of the car to an immediate dominating presence in your mind.
And the tension inside the car reaches an absolute boiling point right there. And then the text just shifts gears completely.
It explodes, really.
It moves from this quiet, static dread into a massive explosion of kinetic action. The driver's reaction breaks the spell. It says, panic violently seizes you. You slam on the brakes, the tires screaming as the car skids to a halt. You whip your head around to face the back seat. It's completely empty. Breathing heavily, you slowly turn back to the front, trying to calm down.
The author shifts the narrative rhythm here to mimic the biological mechanics of a panic attack.
It really feels like one.
The hypnotic drone and the slow build of sensory deprivation are violently shattered. We go from the low humming static of the radio to the deafening sound of tires screaming on asphalt.
The physical whiplash of the scene is palpable. Slamming on the brakes, whipping your head around it, is pure, unfiltered survival instinct taking over the wheel.
Your conscious mind is entirely offline at that point.
Yeah, your body is doing whatever it takes to confront the predator.
Biologically, this is the exact moment a massive dose of adrenaline and cortisol dumps into the bloodstream. The heart rate skyrockets, breathing becomes shallow and rapid, and the body prepares for immediate combat or flight.
Just a total system overload.
Exactly. And if we connect this to the bigger picture of horror structure, the author is utilizing the moment of false relief.
The empty back seat?
Yes, the empty back seat gives the reader a necessary gasp of air. The heavy breathing described in the text mirrors the reader's own physical attempt to process the massive adrenaline spike. The immediate threat appears to have vanished.
I have a hard time calling that relief, though. Like, are we actually relieved that the back seat is empty?
You don't think so?
Because, honestly, when I put myself in that driver's seat, the fact that the space is empty makes it infinitely worse.
How so? Explain that.
Well, when you can see the threat in the mirror, it is terrifying, sure, but at least it is a known quantity. You know exactly where it is, you can track it.
Right, it's contained.
Yeah, but when you violently whip your head around and find absolutely nothing, the rules of reality just broke. Now you have no idea where the threat went.
It could be anywhere.
It could be under the seat, it could be outside the door, it could be right behind your ear. The sudden silence in the car after the tires stop screaming feels so much heavier and more dangerous than the static ever did. The absence of the monster is almost more suffocating than its presence.
That's a great point. The psychology of the unknown always supersedes the psychology of the known.
It just drives your imagination crazy.
Exactly. When the physical space is empty, the threat ceases to be localized and becomes omnipresent. You lose object permanence. So the relief is completely hollow. It's just a trick played on the nervous system.
A really mean trick.
Truly. The driver is desperately trying to rationalize the situation, telling themselves it was a trick of the light or sleep deprivation from the highway hypnosis. The text mentions you're trying to calm down, which is the logical human response.
You're trying to talk yourself off the ledge.
Yes, you are trying to manually override your autonomic nervous system and regain control of your environment.
But you are totally unprepared for what happens next. You're sitting there, breathing heavily, trying to convince your racing heart that you are safe in this silent, stopped car.
Which is the worst thing you could do.
It's the perfect, vulnerable setup for the final escalation. The author essentially waits for you to lower your hands before throwing the knockout punch.
The secondary trap has been sprung.
The final lines of the text deliver that blow. Let me read it. But when you look in the rearview mirror again, the figure isn't in the back anymore. It is leaning directly over your shoulder, its cold, rotting face inches from yours.
The ultimate violation of personal space.
So what does this all mean? The environment of the car has completely transformed from the beginning of the text.
Radically transformed.
It started as this isolated floating capsule. It might have been a bit lonely with just the static on the radio, but it was safe. And
Now it's a trap.
It is a claustrophobic trap. The doors are closed, the car is stopped in the pitch black, and it has essentially become a coffin. There is nowhere left to run.
Let's analyze the mechanics of that shift for a second. The text moves the threat from the visual distance of the middle of your back seat to extreme physical proximity.
Yeah, directly over your shoulder.
Exactly. The sensory details undergo a horrific evolution. Initially, the driver was just looking at rotting clothes through a piece of glass. Now the driver is feeling the cold, rotting face inches from yours.
It goes from a scary picture on a screen to a physical threat breathing down your neck. You can practically smell the decay in the confined air of the car.
It's visceral.
You can feel the unnatural cold radiating off the skin.
It moves from visual horror to tactile horror. It invades your personal space in the most aggressive way possible, triggering every alarm bell your nervous system possesses.
All of them at once.
Yes, and this raises an important question for the architecture of fear. What makes this specific ending so deeply paralyzing for the reader?
For me, it's the fact that it just ends. Like the story cuts to black right at the peak of the tension.
Precisely. By ending the narrative at the exact moment of closest physical proximity, the author deliberately denies the reader any psychological resolution.
You just don't get to know what happens.
Right. In psychology, there's a concept called the Zeigarnik effect.
The Zeigarnik effect.
Yes, which states that people remember uncompleted or interrupted tasks better than completed ones.
Oh, because your brain won't let it go.
Exactly. The brain craves closure. In a typical story, there is a fight, a flight, or an escape. The energy of the panic finds a release valve.
Even if the character dies, at least you know.
Right. But here, the narrative simply stops, leaving your brain perpetually trapped in that frozen, agonizing moment of terror. Your nervous system is screaming for the next action. Do I run? Do I scream? Do I fight? But the text refuses to provide the answer.
You are just stuck there forever with this dead thing breathing on your neck. It is incredibly effective.
It really is.
Let's pull back for a second and summarize the journey we've just taken. This brief piece of text masterfully uses the mechanics of sensory deprivation to lower your defenses and make you vulnerable.
Yes, it isolates you first.
Then it uses the physical framing device of a rearview mirror to force an inescapable passive intimacy with the threat.
The movie screen effect.
Right. And then it violently manipulates pacing, using the heavy silence of false relief to create a masterpiece of claustrophobic dread. It systematically strips away your safety, replacing the hum of an engine with the silence of a stopped car, until you are forced, quite literally, into the driver's seat of your own worst nightmare.
It is a profound example of how horror relies on hacking the human nervous system just as much as it relies on frightening imagery.
It's almost more science than art at that point.
The true terror isn't just the description of the rotting figure. It is the manipulation of your own biological responses to isolation, proximity, and unresolved threats.
It takes all those deeply ingrained survival instincts and turns them completely against you.
It does. But, I want to leave you with one final, deeply unsettling detail to ponder as we wrap up this analysis.
Oh, what's that?
Think back through the entire sequence of events we just deconstructed. Notice that the horrifying figure is only ever seen in the mirror.
Right. When the driver whips their head around and looks back directly, the text clearly states the back seat is completely empty.
Yes.
Yeah.
When the driver violently turns to look at the back seat with their own naked eyes, the physical space is devoid of any threat. There's nothing there.
Just empty seats.
But when they turn back around and look into the mirror a second time, the rotting face is inches from theirs.
Yeah.
If the physical space of the car is undeniably empty, but the mirror shows a monster breathing on your neck, what exactly is the mirror reflecting?
Oh my God.
Is the horror actually a physical entity sitting in the car with you? Or is that tiny piece of glass reflecting something broken and rotting inside your own mind?
Wow. That completely reframes the entire story. It's not a supernatural ghost story anymore. It's a real-time psychological collapse happening at 3:00 a.m. on a dark highway.
It leaves you wondering what's really real.
It really does. Well, thank you all for joining us on this intensely dark deep dive into the architecture of fear. I highly recommend that you take a deep breath, maybe turn on every light in your house right now, and whatever you do, please check your own rearview mirrors on your next late night drive.